So we continue by setting up the live sprite. We continue to set up the live sprite. What's going to be smart in this case is to create a new sprite that we're going to call the game state. Now, I've postponed creating the game state for a number of reasons. One, I wanted to show us the steps that are involved in setting up a game. However, all games should have something that drives them, like an engine. So the game state is responsible for the overall environment of the game, and it's pretty important. So it's been delayed up until this moment. We're going to create the game state, and we're going to see how it applies. All right. So in the last video, I asked you to create this when flag click block and attach it to the player lives sprite. I'm going to go ahead and ignore that for now. I don't think I'm going to need it right now, but I'm going to ask you to create a new sprite, and it's just going to be a blank sprite. So paint new sprite should work, and we're going to change its name, click I, to, you can name it game state or game engine. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stick with game state. All right, so what's game state? Game state is a blank sprite that has no costumes. It has no visible impact on your game. However, what's important is what's going on in the scripts for game state. So in game state, what do I want to do? So when the flag is clicked, I want to set up a bunch of stuff. I want to say, well, when the game starts, I want to set my lives to 3. And let's just use set lives to 3 for now. And if we go back to the very first Invader where we were sticking a bunch of stuff in there that didn't belong, for example, the set lives to 3, we didn't need that in there anymore because that's taken care of by the environment. What else is in here that doesn't belong? Well, we have set direction to 10. All right, we could actually take that out now because logistically it would make sense to put that into the game state. All right, so I could delete this. All right, go back to game state, and we will see we could put in set direction in here to 10. Now, keep in mind, we're going to add a bunch of stuff to this as our program is growing, all right? But we want this to be the kicking off point for our game, all right? A game should start looking at the game state or the game engine once the flag is clicked, all right? All right, so going back to the player lives, which is what we were focusing on. Do we need this anymore? No, that's taken care of us for us back down in the game state. But what do we want happen? All right, so we'll take this out, and we're going to go into events, and we're going to pull a receiver out in place. All right. When I receive a certain message, I want to have 3 of these things on the screen. All right. And what's that message? Well, game start. So go back to the game state. When flag is clicked, we want to say game start. So I'm going to create a new variable, all right, a new message, in other words, start of game. So broadcast, new message. And I may change this, I may tweak this a little bit. So game start. So when I hear game start, if I am the live sprite and I hear this message, game start, what do I want to do? Well, when I hear game start, I want to make sure all 3 of these costumes are showing. What's the name of the costumes with 3 of these things showing? Well, that's called 3 lives. So when game start, when I receive game start from the engine, I'm going to choose to go to my costume, switch costume to 3 lives. Okay, so we'll continue in the next video. Okay, so this is where it gets interesting. We are going to check to see the number of lives that's remaining to the player. So after we have received our game start parameter from the player lives sprite, we're going to switch to the costume that shows 3 lives. So we need to be able to check, and by checking, that's a condition. We need to check each time to see what's the value of the lives variable and then to display the appropriate number of lives. Alright, so checks are done through if commands. If commands are found under the control group. So we'll go in there and drag out an if then block and we'll snap that in. So if the number of lives is equal to 2, then we want to switch to costume that shows 2 lives. So I'll go pull that out, switch costume to 2 lives. Great, snap that in. Now we have to fix the condition. Alright, so we need an equal operator and we need the variable lives. So lives equal to 2. We snap that in and let's make sense of this thing. So if lives is equal to 2, then switch costumes to 2 lives. We want to repeat this group and change this to if lives is equal to 1, then switch costume to 1 life. And if lives is equal to 0, we want to say that's game over. Alright, so we didn't create the game over costume. We'll go ahead and do that in the next couple of seconds. But let's finish up the script. So let's duplicate this. And we're going to say if lives is equal to 0, that's game over. So we have no game over to click in costumes because we didn't create it. So let's do that right now. So under the costumes, let's duplicate the last group. And we're going to change this to game over. And we're going to simply put for now the text that just says game over. We're not going to do anything fancy. It's up to you how fancy you want to make it. I'm just going to keep it simple by writing some text on the screen that just says the words game over. So I need to get rid of all of these guys. So I'll choose the select tool and just delete. Choose my text tool. I'll change my color to something that is easily visible. Now let's use yellow. And my font is what I've been working with so far. Let's just say game over. Alright, make it a little bit larger so it's easily visible. And we want to put that somewhere in the middle of the screen. So that looks like the middle of the screen to me. Go ahead and save it. We don't want any of our work to disappear. And we want to go back to the scripts. All right. So now we could change the costume to game over. All right. So we'll save this project as is, and our next video will connect this logic to the lives actually functioning. So for now, we will never see this group of code actually execute because we don't have a way of updating the number of lives. We don't have a way of broadcasting the message to the system to say, well, okay, my lives value has decreased, so I need to take some action. So we actually need to implement the next video before we could actually see this group of code in action.